Hello there YouTube, today I will be making my predictions for the VCT Champions 2024 group stage. If you end up enjoying this type of video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know you want to see more of this type of video in the comments down below. Also, be sure to let me know who you think will win champions. Me personally, I think Lev will just beat out Team Heretics in the final. Without further ado, let's dive into the groups. In Group A, we have Fnatic taking on Bilibili in the first matchup while DRX and Crew face off in the second match. In Group B, we have a rematch of the Masters Madrid final between Sentinels and Gen G while Team Heretics face off against FPX in the other group game. In Group C, the reigning America's champions in Leviathan face off against Talon Esports while Team Vitality plays Trace Esports in the second match. Finally, in Group D, EDG play FUT Esports in the opening match while G2 have to play W Gaming Paper Rex in the other game. Now, let's start the predictions with Group A and Fnatic vs Bilibili. While Bilibili were able to upset NRG at last year's champs, they haven't looked the same since, and so, I feel that Fnatic, even without Leo, will be able to advance to the winners match. Next up, DRX vs KRU. While I feel like this game will be closer than the first one, DRX should have enough firepower to beat a KRU team which has been underwhelming since Split 1 ended. In the first elimination game between Bilibili and Crew, which I believe will be very close, I think that Crew will be able to recapture their form from Split 1 and prevent Bilibili from making another upset at champs. But who knows, if Crew aren't careful of YZ's judge, Bilibili might be able to go on and make playoffs again. Now in the upper bracket between Fnatic and DRX, I predict that Fnatic will keep their momentum rolling on the backs of Alphager and, the surprise of the tournament in Hero, to stop DRX and advance to playoffs. But with the way DRX were playing in playoffs, I could see them beat Fnatic and even hand them their first loss on Haven since they started using their Yoru ISO comp. Now in the final match of the group between DRX and Crew to decide who gets the second spot in playoffs, I feel like DRX will easily beat Crew, and unless Kesnet can carry like he did in 2021, Crew will be going home empty-handed. Now onto the group of death with Gen G, Sen, FPX, and Team Heretics. In the first match, I feel like Gung will take revenge for Masters Madrid and carry their momentum from Shanghai into champs to beat Sentinels. The simple fact is that Gen G have been playing so well that unless Olofsson pops off, Gen G will probably send Sentinels down to the elimination match. Now on to FPX vs Team Heretics. While I love watching FPX's wacky comps and they have been the most impressive Chinese team this season, I believe the Shanghai finalists will be too much for FPX to overcome in their opening game. Now on to the elimination game between FPX and Sentinels. While I would love to see FPX make a run at champs, I feel that this group and this Sentinels roster will be too much for the Chinese underdogs to be able to pull off an upset. Next up, the rematch of the Masters Shanghai final to decide which of Team Heretics and Gen G will advance to playoffs. While Gen G have looked unbeatable at points this year, I believe that Team Heretics will find a way to get their revenge for Shanghai off the backs of the Boo brothers. And finally, a rematch between Gen G and Sentinels to decide who will move on to playoffs. Even though Gen G will be expected to roll Sentinels. But I feel like Sentinels will find a way to pull of the impossible to make it to playoffs, likely off the back of a historic performance by Zekken or Tens. Even still, I would not be surprised if this was a 2-0 win for Gen G, which would be a disappointing end to a stellar season by Sentinels. Next up, Group C and Lev vs Talon. While Talon star aimer, Primi, has looked cracked since joining the team, this should still be an easy win for one of the favorites to win the whole event. Next up, Team Vitality vs Trace Esports. While Trace have looked good in China recently, Safe and Vitality looked too good in EMEA playoffs to lose their opening match. However, Trace could pull off an upset here, especially if they play Ascent, which Trace have not lost on this year. Now, we have the upper bracket between Lev and Vitality as well as the lower bracket between Talon and Trace. Starting with the lower bracket between Talon and Trace, I feel like this will be the tightest matchup of the group. Both teams impressed in their domestic seasons and both teams clearly have potential. Trace has their unbeaten Ascent and a strong unit while Talon has some great individual talent such as Primi and Cruz. Saying this, I feel like Trace should be slightly favored in this matchup, but I feel that the individual heroics from mainly Primi will help Talon find a way to beat Trace. Next up, Lev vs Team Vitality, and I don't have too much to say on this one. While Vitality impressed me in playoffs, this still should be a win for Lev led by Aspas. Finally, Team Vitality vs Trace. Ignore it, says Talon, I changed my mind. While Team Vitality won the first edition of this matchup, the second will not be as easy for them. After losing to Lev while Trace just beat Talon, Trace will have to favor themselves coming into this matchup. While this will likely be the case, I believe Safe will find a way to carry Vitality into playoffs off the back of an incredible map 3, but this may just be bias as I haven't watched much VCT China. Finally, Group D. The group that I believe will be the most competitive for the playoff spots, as I could see any two of these teams advancing. First up we have EDG vs Foot. While EDG have been dominant in China, they have consistently struggled when it comes to international events this season. For this reason, I think that CNED and Foot will beat them. Next up, Paper Rex vs G2, W Gaming vs Methodical Play. G2 will likely prep a ton of protocols to deal with the W Gaming, and so Paper Rex will probably lose to a more disciplined team. However, if Paper Rex could win if they come up with some never-before-seen ideas that G2 will have no idea how to deal with. Next up, the most common international game, Paper Rex vs EDG. In their last 4 meetings, Paper Rex have won 3 and EDG have won once. I feel like this trend will continue, and that Paper Rex will continue to beat a struggling EDG. Second to last, Foot vs G2. Both teams have great strategy and are teams stronger than the sum of their pieces. However, I believe that G2 will continue their incredible form and beat Foot. Finally, Foot vs Paper Rex. Both teams have had similar seasons, and while both could win this match. However, I feel like Paper Rex have looked slightly better going into Champs, and in a one-off series, I feel like Paper Rex will get the dub to claim the final spot in the playoffs. If you guys enjoyed this type of video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Also, comment down below who you think will win Champs and if you want me to keep covering Champs. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.